Artificial intelligence remains a hot topic across retail, and while many continue to study the technology to see how it can help their business, there are still many questions that remain unanswered. Welcome to Store Brand Spotlight. I'm Greg Sleeter, Executive Editor of Store Brands. Joining me today is Shekar Raman, CEO and founder of Birdzi. Shekar will provide insights on AI and discuss how the technology can be used by retailers and their supplier partners to help drive the product development process and further enhance private label product assortments. Shekar, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Greg, for having me.
It's my pleasure. A very hot topic, as I'm sure you're aware of, across retail, is retailers and suppliers alike try to figure out the best use for this ever-growing technology. So, should be a good discussion today. Shaker, before we really get deep in the weeds about AI, give us just a little background and insight about Birdseye.
Sure, I'll give you the bird's eye view, like I tell people, right? So maybe it'll help to just give a 30-second background of myself and how I wound up with it. I'm an engineer, electrical engineer by training, and I had no business running a grocery tech business. But what happened is my daughter came home one day in elementary school, asking me for help with an invention day project for her school. And I said, I'll gladly help. And we happened to find ourselves in the supermarket with a list from my wife. And I couldn't find half the things in the store. And at which point my daughter looked at her helpless dad and said, maybe we should invent something that'll help you locate products in a supermarket. I said, that sounds like a great invention. And that's how we started Birdseye and give you a bird's eye view of what was happening inside the store. And hence, that was the original intent of the company to do indoor mapping and analytics to help retailers understand how shoppers are traversing the store and making their purchases. But we soon kind of pivoted from that once we realized that retailers are sitting on top of a lot of data that tells them so much about their customer and they aren't doing much with it. And so we kind of pivoted into a platform that helps retailers derive insights out of their own first party data and loyalty programs, and then how to personalize promotions and coupons and target the right kind of messaging back to shoppers to drive basket and behavior.
Interesting. So you're not a grocery guy, which I think is a good thing because I think sometimes when people are too close to an industry, there's a lot of blind spots, and sometimes they don't see opportunity. And I know even talking to other tech companies, it's been a question they've asked of me, privately, but why is the grocery industry a challenging industry to kind of getting to move forward? And I said, you've got people, their biggest concern is just getting product on the shelf, and learning a new technology can be challenging. So it's interesting that you kind of come from outside the industry. So that's interesting. Um, Shaker, I'm curious, based on that intro and what you just said, when you started getting into to learn about the grocery industry, I'm curious of your point of view in terms of all the insights that each grocer has right now and each retailer has right now, largely because of their loyalty programs. What was your take on how they were either using or not using that information, to better serve their customers and maybe better make better choices of what's on the shelf?
That's a great question, Greg. I think I know I came into this from the financial industry, working in Wall Street, where data was highly regulated, maintained standards that existed. You had to stick to those standards. And coming into the grocery industry, I was initially shocked by the level of standardization or the lack thereof of the data. And I think that's part of the reason why it's challenging for grocers. There's no tools that will commonly work across all grocery chains that will take their data and work uniformly, right? There is just so much customization that needs to be done. I think that's been one of the blockers for a scalable technology to be used across because there is just poor standardization. I think number two is a lot of the data that's being generated as a result of shopper activity has been traditionally used just on a transactional basis to run the POS and sell stuff at the checkout lane. So there's very little attention given to customer experience of understanding product detail, managing that information. And I think things have developed in a silo. Like, we need inventory tracking that's developed in a silo. We need a website that's developed in a silo. We need coupons that's developed, and all these systems very rarely talk to each other. And as a result of which, now when you go in and say, okay, how do I use these technologies to do something holistic? And you realize that, oh my God, this data is fragmented all over the place. I have to piece it all together to put the puzzle together to understand the customer. And I think that's been part of the challenge for a lot of retailers. So obviously, the larger ones have had the manpower to put together teams to clean up the infrastructure, so to say. But some of the grocers and the supermarkets in the lower end of the tier, I've struggled with it because they just don't have the resources to actually pull their data together to get the insights to drive what they need to drive.
You talked about those silos. Getting to break down those silos. Is it a hardware issue? Is it a software issue, or is it a combination of the two? Or are there other factors that are at play here in trying to break down those silos?
It's a little bit of all three, Greg. I think number one, you have a lot of legacy hardware in a lot of these stores. And so what they can handle, their capacity of handling data is limited because it's just old technology. I think that there's a lot of software that's been kind of patchworked into a retailer's enterprise system. And third is, I think there is a real challenge of getting the right kind of talent to help you with putting all this together, right? I mean, somebody who goes to a really good university and does a degree in computer science and AI is not looking to go work at a a grocery company, right? And so all those three things I think contribute to the challenge, which makes it really interesting, given that this is probably the one retail store that every single person goes and shops at, right? So you think about the impact of grocery, it is really 100% of the population shops at one or more grocery stores. But unfortunately, it's one place where technology takes the longest time to actually come in and make an impact.
From the standpoint of artificial intelligence, how does AI help in achieving that goal of better understanding, who's in the store, what are they buying, and then maybe recognizing an opportunity for something different going forward?
Yeah. So, Greg, I want to kind of qualify that word AI. AI has been around for a while, right? It's been around for a long time. I think the mode in which people know AI today has changed. After ChatGPT came out, now they know they can talk to it and they feel that, okay, this is AI. But really, the concept of AI, the algorithms that drive machine learning, have been around for decades, right? Um, and so I think when you think about, and I'm going to kind of see this through the lens of the more generative AI that's now people are now familiar with, where these things can create stuff, right? I think where we are today is we have the ability to consume large volumes of information and drive insights out of it in relatively quick times. What used to take analysts looking through Excel sheets and writing code to analyze and create charts can now be done through systems fairly quickly. And I think there is a tremendous opportunity here to organize your data, if you have your data organized, that is, to organize your data and then have these AIs harvest information that can drive really meaningful insights that can impact your business. So I think it's that foundation that everybody's scrambling to build, which is how do I get the foundation where I can leverage, you know, an AI tool. And if you give it bad data, the AI is just going to do, it's garbage in, garbage out, so to say.
So the software, the technology, if you will, is there, and as you mentioned, it's been in use for a while. So now I guess it's training the humans how to properly use it and making sure that data, whatever that data set is in proper working order before feeding it into whatever the AI program they're using.
Exactly. I mean, you think about it, we use ChatGPT today. We take for granted that it gives us seemingly intelligent answers, right? But it's been trained on a huge body of text that's been cleaned, labeled, and sent to it, right? So the amount of effort that had to happen in the background to actually train the system to produce the answers that it does produce today is massive. So if you think about being able to use your data to drive insights, it has to be clean. It has to be in a fashion that's um, where you can have the AI make sense of it. It has to be consistent. There has to be some sense of cohesion to the data. You can't have one thing called one in one silo and another same thing called something else in a different silo. It has to have some meaningful correlations. So these are all things that have to happen at a data engineering level. And then the second piece, Greg, is really, you know, do I really, I need my inventory system to talk to my front end promotion management system, to my e-commerce system, because they all need to be in conversation with each other. If I'm really going to promote a product to a shopper who's showing up on my site, I need to make sure I'm carrying it. Make sure descriptions are good, and I'm making recommendations that are based on their purchase history. So you can see how you have to bring a lot of these pieces of information together to have an effective experience. So a lot of the work that has to happen under the ground really is pulling all of those silos together before you unleash an AI on it to say, okay, tell me what to do.
It's interesting when you talk about having to feed it good data. Essentially, it makes me think about, you know, 20 years ago when people were really getting into designing their own websites and having to code them. If the code is bad, the website's going to be bad. It's not the website's fault; it's the coder's fault. So it still gets back to the human having to make sure it's doing everything the right way. So it sounds like there's a similarity there.
There is, and one day we're going to get to an AI that can build an AI, and I'm
Right.
sure it's happening pretty soon, and that's going to be perfect when it happens, right? But I mean, we've all seen weird things with when you record your meetings and you get summaries, and it's like, who said that, right? I mean, they're really helpful, but when it goes bad, it goes really bad, right? And so I don't think we're at the point yet where we are comfortable to let it do stuff on its own. There still seems like there's some kind of human supervision that's needed to ensure that the end product meets your specific needs and goals. But where I see uh, this is incredibly useful is driving efficiencies and productivity to greatly speed up what would take days to do. You can now do in minutes and if not hours, right? And I think that's where some of the biggest gains are coming from.
As you have gotten acclimated, I guess, to the grocery segment and worked with, and tried to bring in, or I'm not bring in, but better use the technology. Um, have you seen retailers get better at this and make greater use of the technology that's there now to help them run their businesses?
See, I think the retailer is not so much concerned about technology as much as the benefit that the technology provides, right? So I think the questions are the same. They just want to get to the answers much faster than they were normally used to getting to. Like, why shouldn't I be able to know who my declining customers are in the next 5 minutes? Why should it take a whole week for me to get that report to take action? So I think that expectation of getting answers to their questions is changing. And I think next thing that's going to happen is the expectation of execution on those insights is going to change, right? Why is it taking me a month to plan this campaign and execute it? I should be able to do it tomorrow. So I think those are the things and when you add speed to any of these things, it dramatically changes what you can do and what you can get done, right? I mean, what used to take people, months to do now takes hours, right? Like if you think about building a car all by yourself until, Mr. Ford came along with the assembly line and figured out how to do it faster. And now you have robots building cars. You can produce tens and thousands of cars in a day, right? So the end result of what we're doing is not necessarily changing. The speed and the efficiency with which we're able to do it is what this technology is enabling us to do.
Shaker, is it just that speed of getting the report done? Is there a competitive advantage in that in terms of if they're looking to address a loss in customer or maybe an opportunity to bring more customers in, or there's a certain type of product that they should have on the shelf? Is that speed to kind of spit out that report the advantage that the retailer would have maybe versus a competitor?
Yeah, so I think when you combine insights and action together, right? That's really where the magic happens, right? It's one thing to know, it's another thing to do, right? And when you can combine the knowing and doing, that's when you can really make an impact. And I think you have in the past had a lot of companies that will provide you reports and insights and intelligence, but they can be sitting on your desk. If you don't do anything with it, it's not making anything happen for you. And I think we're seeing the merger of that knowing and doing and that gap is reducing, right? Going from insights to action. Right now, there is a human in between who's taking that insight and then deciding what the action is. But what's going to happen pretty soon is you're going to have an AI that's just taking the insight and taking action under some kind of human supervision, right? Which essentially means that if I'm noticing my top customers have stopped buying bread and eggs in my store in the last 3-4 days, I can do something about it right away instead of having to wait for a whole week to get a report, then decide what's going to happen. Why am I losing this customer, right?
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's fascinating too because I mean, if we go back whatever many years it was, 10, 15 years before, especially the grocery segment with apps and how you can shop now, and especially coming out of the pandemic with all the online ordering. I mean, they are sitting on a treasure trove of information right now. And I think some are using it better than others, but it is amazing that they just have this information there. It's just, again, how do you weed through it? So, maybe this is something that can help them. Um, Shaker, for a retailer out there that's like, hey, we're doing some of this, but we want to get better at it. What type of training or what type of advice would you give that retailer to ensure that they have got their sort of arms around how they can use artificial intelligence to really help them maybe better understand their customers and run their business more efficiently?
I think the first and foremost thing that you got to do is you got to unify your data, right? You have to somehow figure out what are the critical systems in my business that need to talk to each other, and how can I have a common pool of data that these systems can use, because that then becomes like, think of it as your retail brain, right? Like, just imagine if you have, we have five senses: eyes, ears, north, your touch, and your smell. And if they were all communicating to different brains, and then you had to pull all that information together to make a decision on what to do next, right? They're all going into the same one brain, which is why you're able to coordinate your actions. So, from an information perspective, you have to figure out how to unify information, number one, right? Number two, there has to be some processes that are governing the cleanliness of the information, because what very often happens is you institute some processes and some codes, and then there's a digression. And so digression from that will mess up your system. It'll add unnecessary muddy water to your system. So you got to clean that up. So those are foundational. And unfortunately, a lot of these in the supermarket industry, because it never shuts down, right? It's running 24/7, 365 days a week. Most of the technology is dedicated to keep operations running. It's not focused around, how do we clean up our data and maintain it in a clean silo, unified silo. So unfortunately, there is a little bit of a painful exercise that these retailers do have to go through. And I think what we're finding, as even at Birdzi, as we deploy our retailers, is that we see these challenges. But when they adopt a platform like Birdzi, we go in there and we clean out this data and make it usable and create it, make it clean. And then the effect of that is just unbelievable, right? So there is a painful process that you have to go through. There's no way to avoid it. But that's really what I would tell retailers to do: is you start looking at your data practices, start figuring out what's critical, figure out how to get the data into the same place, because the insights out of that are just unbelievable, right?
Can you share a story without identifying any of your customers, but an example of where a retailer used data-driven personalization or use this technology to really, boost engagement with their customers or maybe run their business way more efficiently?
Yeah, I mean, in fact, that would be every one of our customers. So what we do on behalf of our customers is the following: is we pull in all of their first party data, which is everything that the customers put in when they registered for the loyalty program, their transaction history, their pricing, their promotions, their item hierarchy, everything that's sold in the store, all of that. And what we're able to do by pulling all of that together is get a very holistic view of the customer, which is, hey, Greg's been shopping with us for the past 18 months. He spent about $2,000 with us. I can see his spending is increasing by about 10% year over year. And we know that he doesn't buy paper goods here, and we know he doesn't buy meat here. I know he was buying that somewhere. So what we're able to do is then identify gaps in a shopper's purchase history, which we know that they definitely buy, and figure out how can we get a bigger share of the wallet. So what the AI is really doing is trying to fill those gaps in that shopper behavior while continuing to encourage the shopper to come back for trips on products that they already buy at the store. So you don't want to stop that. You want to continue encouraging the trip, but keep expanding the trip. So what we've been able to do for our retailers is deploy these campaigns, which really are run by an AI, which essentially take their shoppers and then generates for each one of those shoppers unique promotions at a price point that that shopper will respond to. And what we've seen as a result of that is a greater retention, bigger basket sizes, a bigger breadth in shop, and just an incredible ROI, right, around the board. And the beauty is that this is something that used to take 4 to 5 people a month to put together is now half an hour, right, with nobody. So when you think about what can AI do and what can these technologies do, it's astounding, right? And we're getting to a point where we feel that in the next couple of years, everybody is going to have their own personal agent, right, which does their stuff. Then you'll have an AI which understands you, your behaviors, your patterns, not just about shopping, but about everything, your dietary needs, your health. And it might be able to go and do the shopping for you and come back to you and say, hey, here's what I have in your shopping list. Does it look good? Do you want me to buy this? And all you're saying is, yes, go buy it. Right. And it's happening. So I think we're getting to that point. So question is, when a retailer launches that kind of a platform, what's going to happen to your business if you're not ready with that kind of solution, right? Are you, so this is kind of like agentic commerce. Like you have e-commerce where people did the actual commerce, but you're going to have agentic commerce where agents are doing the buying on your behalf, right? And it's, it's coming sooner than you think, right? And the question is, if you're a retailer and you don't have the infrastructure to support that kind of a system, what's going to happen to you? Right. So I think it's a wake up call for a lot of people. I mean, I've been in technology for all my life, Greg. I have not seen technology change as fast as it has. Right. And my head spins just thinking, reading through tech news every day. It's like, oh my God. Right.
Yeah, we thought, the advent of the iPhone, almost 20 years ago now, and how that evolved quickly was something. It has been amazing the last couple of years, to see where this is going. And again, I'm not in the tech field. I'm sort of, in the stands watching, and it is truly amazing to see how quickly it evolves. And it's also interesting too when we talk to some retailers and how they are starting to use this technology more and more. And I think, like you said, the report that took a week or two and a handful of people is now out within a half hour, and maybe done with it as efficient and as with the level of information that it took a few people to do. And I know even for like we use it in a limited basis, but sometimes the ideas that you when you talk to it and ask for some thoughts and ideas, or every once in a while it spits out something, and I never thought of that. Never thought of it that way, and it makes you think a little differently. So it's a fascinating tool to use. Again, like you said, you still gotta have a human element to it, at least for now. So it's interesting. Um, Shaker, for those retailers that are reluctant to use this more right now, what would you tell them?
Boy, I'm scared. I'm scared about for your future, right? Because it's like saying I'm still going to deliver my products on horse-driven carriages, right? It's just simply you can do it, but I don't know how long you'll survive doing it. Because I think the rate at which people adopt new technologies is just incredible, right? And that is the biggest scare, which is when a technology comes about which radically simplifies your life and efficiency, people switch to it really, really fast, and you won't even know it, right? And I think that's with e-commerce, it still took a decade, right? Uh, with social media, it took a couple of years, right? And that time is shrinking, and so I think, which means that the amount of time that you have to react to change is also shrinking. So it's time to wake up and smell the coffee right now.